So, I'm Inkmaven. I think I saw a couple of you in the den today, and this is my associate, Golden Druid.
Hello.
And we've both been dealers collectively, I think, over a decade between the two of us.
Yes. I mean, I've been doing Artist Alley since 2012.
I started doing Artist Alley in 2016, and then I started doing Dealers Den in 2017, I think. So.
Yeah, when it was 2013, I started doing that.
So yeah, we like to call this panel affectionately, So You Want to Be a Con Artist. Not that kind, a convention con artist. And these are some of our tips and tricks for either new sellers or people who are maybe potentially looking at selling their art at cons, but haven't started yet or don't really know where to start.
Yeah. So a nice little beginner's guide. So how many people here have actually done Artist Alley or maybe have like an online shop? Any experience selling in those ways? We've got one person. All right, cool. So we're starting pretty fresh. All right.
And just to clarify, where are you at right now in your dealer artist journey?
I sell under the table online through a couple different platforms, but I just actually got my first international commission today.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I mount Pokemon cards to canvases, and then I paint around the cards to expand the picture so that it fills out the canvases. And they start at like 3 by 3 inches. So they're just like these tiny little Polly Pocket PAL canvases.
That's adorable.
Thank you.
Cool. So yes, we will be talking about like how to get started, but primarily we're going to be focusing on how to sell at conventions. How to sell online is a whole other beast.
Yeah.
But I want to move into the convention circuit.
Yes.
Cool. I think some of the customer service stuff goes both ways
Oh yeah.
too.
It'll be helpful for sure.
All right, well, we're artists, so all of us have those nasty thoughts in our heads sometimes where we like to ask ourselves, are we good enough? I personally have a certain amount of social anxiety, and so I do a lovely little thing called catastrophizing, where my brain likes to focus on like the worst possible thing that could happen at any moment, and then decide that that's the most likely. So some of the things that I catastrophize about when I come to con are like, what if my merchandise doesn't sell? What if I'm awkward when I interact with someone in front of my booth? What if I don't end up making enough money? And it ultimately boils down to that failure, the feeling and the fear of like, what if I fail? So I'm here to tell you, if you're maybe feeling a little bit of that apprehension, that is totally normal. All of us experience it. And hopefully this panel will kind of dispel some of that feeling of fear by giving you some tools to move forward with.
And I also want to say, even if you bomb, that's okay. I only made $25 the first time I was in Artist Alley. But let me tell you, I was so excited because even though I walked away with $25, I walked away with thousands of dollars worth of ideas on how to do it right, how to do it better. And so the next year I came back, I did the Dealer's Den, and all the things that I failed at the first time, I got right the second time. So failure is not so bad. It's a great way to learn.
So, your con artist starter pack. This is all you need to get started. You need to make things. You need to want to make something that you sell to people or put in their pockets. And you need to be willing to interact with customers face to face. With a little asterisk, because sometimes you can get other people to help you with that. And if you have those 3 things or are willing to outsource a little bit, then that's it. That's really all you need to have to start thinking about selling at conventions. So, one thing I really want to stress is that another one of the fears I hear very commonly from people who are about to start is that they just don't know where to start. And showing you this slide, I kind of want to show you that you don't have to have everything perfect for your first convention. My first convention was at BLFC in 2017. I had a little tiny slice of table about 3 feet. I had 1 shirt design, like 3 stickers, a couple wall scrolls, and some prints, and that was it. But like Hannah was saying, sometimes the value out of your first couple of conventions isn't always money, it's experience and the things that you learn and what you learn to do better next time. So you will continue to grow. Just don't feel any pressure to have it like 100% set up the way you see it in your mind at your very first con.
Oh yeah, that's way too much pressure. Too much.
So remember, there's always room to grow. Don't feel like you need to have everything figured out right away.
And actually that was the next thing I was gonna try is starting small is gonna be your friend, because that way you're gonna figure out what works first. So start local. Don't spend a whole lot of money on travel. You know, the bigger cons are, you know, good ways to make money because they bring in a lot of attendees. But if it's like your first couple times, that might not be an expense you want to make. So go to some of your local events where you maybe aren't spending money on a hotel or travel. Artist Alley is also a great way to start. It's super small. You can just start by doing some commissions, maybe some small merchandise, just get your name out there. Or like what we've done in the past is we've actually shared a dealer's table. It's also great to have somebody there where you can, you know, help each other out as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and low cost items just to start with are great. Stickers,
Prints,
buttons,
yep, stuff like
prints.
that. Basically, this all boils down to low cost equals low risk. So the more overhead cost you have at the start of a convention, the more likely you are to go in the negative or not make very much money. So by doing all of these things, you can reduce your cost to start, which sets yourself up to succeed that much easier.
Yes.
Merchandise. What do I sell? It's a great question. I like to work my way gradually up a list of different tiers of items. So we were talking about starting small with small, easy to produce items. It works out really well if you have different items for different budgets at your table, because not everybody who comes to spend money at your table and wants to support you is gonna be able to drop money on, for me it would be like a $200 commission, but for like a fursuit maker it might be like a $1,500 or $2,500 partial. You want to make sure you have something small, so if someone really wants to support you but they only have a couple bucks in their hand, and they can still drop money at your table and leave feeling like they got something worth their value.
Like one of the things that I love to sell are just like these 4x6 little mini prints. I sell them for $5, and yeah, it's super great. People buy just like, you know, a handful of them.
Yep, I have those too. I have mini 5x7 prints. I think we sell them for $10. And then I have stickers, and my most expensive sticker is $5. So my like small merch is anywhere between like $5, $10, maybe over to $15. Yeah, I think we already covered everything else there. I got ahead of myself a little bit. Medium priced items, fursuit props, larger prints. I think for you that would be like your 13 by 19 and your 11 by 14.
Yeah.
For me, I used to carry wall scrolls. My t-shirts fit into my medium priced item category, and my 9 by 12 prints do as well.
And I have the ultimate badge lanyard.
Yep. And that medium price range may vary quite a bit, because like I said, like maybe you're a fursuit maker, one of your medium price range items is like a set of paws or a set of feet paws, and that could run a couple $100s. Then you want to have your main or big ticket items. These are usually what you're like known for selling. So like someone throws your name around the dealer's den, like, oh hey, have you gotten stuff from Golden Druid before? Oh yeah, is she the person who does the chinchilla t-shirts?
You're known
or
for.
Whatever, you know. Those things will set you apart from other dealers, and that actually also doubles as an application booster, because looking at this from the perspective of the person who's organizing the dealer's den, it behooves them to make sure that they have a diverse amount of, diverse types of merchandise available to the consumers. So if you have something that's unique to you as a maker, that will oftentimes increase your chances of getting into like a jury's dealer's den.
Right, because when they're reading over your application, they're looking for these things. They want to make sure you're not just selling like one kind of item. Having a little bit of variety is going to go a long way.
And your main big ticket items also don't have to be your most expensive. Like for me, I would say that's probably my t-shirts and my metallic prints. And I think for you, one of your like big ticket items would be the badge lanyards.
I would say, yeah, the lanyards and my big prints, those are the things that people seem to recognize me for. They're like, you're the lanyard lady.
Some questions to ask yourself about your merchandise. Ultimately, this is one of my favorite questions, but what do you want to make? There are two different ways to approach merchandise making, and one of them is, well, I think this thing would be popular, and other people would like it, but I always like to trust my gut. If I think I like something enough, then I like to tell myself that there's probably other people out there who will like it too, and that's never done me wrong. So, but aside from that, think about the type of things you want to put out into the world. Do you want to make t-shirts? Do you want to make posters? Do you want to have lanyards, prints, ultimate badge lanyards? Do you make sewn goods? If you make sewn goods, what kind of things are you selling to people? That sort of thing. Do you do traditional art, digital art? And then also think, based upon the things that you want to create or that you want to put out in the world, what's your market? Obviously, we're in the furry community market right now, but also I found that I've had some crossover in some really surprising places. I have a lot of people in Hawaii who buy my crystal lanyards specifically. I don't know why, but like I've had some success at like pet fairs because a lot of my art has, my shirts have like animals on them and they're more acceptably furry. So if you weren't in the fandom, you might not know that that was the origin. And sometimes it can be worth branching out into those other communities to see if you can find some success there too. But it's also good to know your audience because that will also help you produce merch in the future.
And one of the things I like to, I'm going to add to this.
Sure.
I think it's great to ask your audience, what do they want?
Oh yeah.
What do you guys like? Do a poll. You know, see what people are liking on your social media. Yeah, just keep putting stuff out into the world and keep getting, collecting that feedback. And that's going to be super helpful when you decide to, how much you want to produce of a certain design.
Mm-hmm. That will also happen organically. I've had a couple times at my table, people took a look at something like a print that I had and they were like, do you have this on a t-shirt?
Yep.
Have you made this into a sticker? And those moments can be really helpful to like, all right, clearly my audience wants this thing, so I'm going to produce that next. All right, a little bit of table talk. The next question, how do I set up my table? Everybody's tables are gonna look very different depending upon what you sell, what kind of needs you have as far as space. The first recommendation I always give is do your research and look around at the other dealers in the spaces that you want to occupy. That's also what I do when I need to like upscale or revamp my table. I look at how people are hanging up their prints, what sort of structure they're using underneath everything. If you want to take specific reference or inspiration from someone, just ask. Most of the time, other dealers are very happy to share with you where they learned a thing or why they do something specific. These communities are really awesome from what I've experienced so far. So, yeah. A major consideration is portability and weight, especially if you're like us and you fly with your merchandise.
Yes.
Modular setups are great for packing and flexibility, so you're not paying oversized or overweight baggage fees.
This is the first time I had to pay for oversized,
I was
overweight
so
bag.
close.
10 pounds over for me.
Mm-hmm. Pro tip, if you're flying, they say that 50 pounds is the weight limit for bags, but airports actually don't overcharge you or don't charge you for an overweight baggage fee unless it's over 52 pounds. So you have like a 2-pound allowance there, like a little grace. Something I learned doing conventions.
Yep.
It can be helpful to trial run your space. So if you're either trying a new setup or starting a setup for the first time and you know how much space you're gonna have, at a convention like this, usually it would be 6-foot tables or 8-foot tables, and that 2 feet can make a huge difference. We recommend that you tape out the space on a floor or on a table that's a little bigger than that and do your setup before you arrive at the convention.
Do like a mock table.
Just so you know what it looks like and you know what you're getting yourself into before you show up during the like 2-hour block of den setup and then panic because it's not coming out the way you thought.
Take pictures.
Yes.
And also write down notes, like if there's a certain way you want something set up behind the scenes, take pictures of it, write down notes. It's going to be so much easier when you're doing it on game day.
Going back to applications also, taping out your space and doing like a mock-up at home can be really important because a lot of jury dealers' dens want to see what your table setup looks like and what it will look like in their space. And if you've never been to a convention before, you don't have a picture of what your table setup looks like in that environment, it will totally suffice to have even just concept art of what it might look like, or to have like your mock at home. That could be really beneficial in applications. Modular storage cubes. I'm sure you've seen these around. This is where I started. I'm getting to a point where I might need to start retiring them soon, but in my opinion, this is a really great place to start if you're working from nothing. They're for like college dorm rooms. You can get them at like Bed Bath & Beyond. I've had to buy them
Amazon.
at a convention before because I forgot something or like didn't have enough. They're fairly inexpensive. I think a set like this size is like 20 bucks. They can be a little heavy though, so that weight does add up. If you are flying, that's something to be conscientious of.
I recommend the ones that I use.
Yes.
They have, it's basically just a wired square, and then the inside isn't
It's like plastic, like
yeah,
vinyl?
vinyl. It's no more. There's no more wires on the inside. It's just on the outside, and it's a lot lighter.
Yeah, those are really great if you sell primarily like prints or stickers.
Yeah.
I need to upgrade to those because I'm getting to the point where a lot of my art is flat, and this is starting to be too heavy for me. But it is a good place to start.
Cool. You got a question?
I also have a lot of very flat art with my
yes.
canvases. What kind of direction are you trying to take with replacing the cubes?
I was going to do what Hannah has at her, Golden has on her setup. If you find us in the den tomorrow, you can take a look at what her setup is. I also have a picture in here, so I'll point it out later when we get to that picture. But it is just these grids, but instead of having a wire grid in the center, it's just a piece of plastic.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I've been having trouble with that.
Yes. Table space. I did touch on this a little bit already, but make sure you know what size the table is that the con is offering you. 6 and 8 are pretty standard, but the 2 feet there, for me, is the difference between being able to display 2 more t-shirts and not. So if your setup works for a 6-foot table, or for an 8-foot table, but not for a 6, you might need to consider getting 2 tables or sharing with a friend or something like that. But if your setup is modular like we've been talking about, then you can kind of adjust that and fill any sort of space comfortably. And that's where setting up your stuff at home really comes in handy because you can kind of Tetris it out.
Especially if you are doing conventions where you have different table sizes. Maybe you have to go from a 3-foot to an 8-foot. So
that's happening with us here because both Golden and I are doing Further Confusion after this, and this con has 6-foot tables and Further Confusion has 8. And since we flew, all of the stuff we brought has to work for both of those setups because we're not going home in between. Let's talk a little bit about table aesthetics. I'm a firm believer that your table visually is an extension of your branding and sort of who you are as an artist, so it should feel a little bit like you. Your color choices should be intentional, also with an asterisk, because I say that as a person who literally just used a spare bed sheet that I had for my first convention, and then that became my branding color. So like a little bit of flex room there. But also consider how your signage can be pulled into your personal aesthetic as an artist. What can you do with all of the extra stuff on your table that's not your art or the thing that you make to use that stuff to elevate what you're selling? Is it handwritten? Is it printed? What kind of a font are you using? What color is it? How big is it? How small is it? How do you display your name? How is your table seen from afar, and can your name be clearly read?
And that's super important because having a display that's kind of like a beacon, I think working your way up to having some height is important, especially if it's going to be a crowded dealer's den and there's going to be lots of people walking around. Nobody's going to see your table if it's all lying flat on the thing, or maybe you have like 2 feet. It's going to be barely visible. Having something up high where people are like, ooh, that looks cool, and they can wade through the crowd to get to you, very important.
I mean,
because like,
go ahead.
like I was kind of in that corner. It's like even coming around towards, it's like I see your hottie in school. It's like, oh, she's here, and then right behind that, it's like, oh, okay, you had the really pretty thing up top is like,
Yes,
they're
it's
both
working.
Essentially what we're doing is all just creating like a big pop-up strip mall, and I know I've been in a strip mall before looking for a very specific store that I can't find because the sign is like itty-bitty or it's a weird color or whatever. So it definitely behooves you to have your name big and bold so people who are looking specifically for you can find you very easily.
And I do want to talk about one thing,
Sure.
because you're talking about your bed sheet, right? How that became your thing. A lot of people hesitate when they think about doing their brand. They're like, it's just so complex. I want to get it right the first time. I don't know. What I found is your brand will find you. It's kind of like the same thing with starting this whole adventure. You got to start somewhere, and it's the same thing with brand. Start with what you have. You don't have to have a logo all set up. You don't have to have all your font choices.
I still don't have a logo.
So yeah, the thing about brand is it kind of comes to you as you go along through your process. And if, like Ink was saying, pick cohesive colors and just kind of put something together that meshes well.
You can always replace stuff as you go.
Exactly.
Which even like 7 years in, 8 years in, I'm still doing that. So, whoop! No, wake up! I think it just went to sleep
Good
because
man.
we've been talking too long. There we go. So yeah, moving on. As an extension of the branding and aesthetics, here's a couple of like mood boards that I put together just to push home that idea of like these are all the same items, one side to the other, but they give a very different feel overall. On the left side, we've got this like very sleek, very clean, kind of modern look with a little bit of gold embellishments. And then on the right, it's a little more cute and homey and kind of sweet looking. And this is just an example of how those small aesthetic choices can totally change the way your setup feels. So yeah, here's some pictures of my setup in past years and what it looks like now in comparison to what it looked like before. Like I said, I sell mostly flat goods. So for the most part, I do use those grids, but I also have a big like photo backdrop frame in the back. That's what I hang my banner on. I know some people use like PVC pipe, and that can get taken down pretty easily. And then this is a couple older pictures of Golden's booth.
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything in here you want to talk about.
Well, just kind of like, I'm always changing my booth. And that's one of the reasons those grids are so great. Sometimes it'll be super small, like the one I have there with my little fursuit, and then sometimes
I think that was a 6 foot.
Yeah, I think that was a 6 foot. So nice and compact. And then I even built some towers for my lanyards off to the side. I think that was actually here at one of the Anthro Northwest.
2019 one.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm always like shaking it up, trying new designs.
Yeah, and then in the past couple of years, you recently expanded out from one table because one table became not enough to 2 tables. So this is Golden's setup here this year with the 2 tables pushed together. So I think this is 12 feet.
Yeah, and it's super nice and cozy, and I've definitely gotten to the point where I can afford the 2 booths now.
Yeah, and you can kind of see how her setup evolved too. Instead of having those towers on the side, now you've got the badge lanyards built into the grids. And these are what we were talking about with the plastic in between them.
Yeah,
it's still the same, like it's got the circle clips and everything.
Yeah, so are those towers, are they the same grid things, or are those a different product altogether?
I believe those are still the same, like they're built like grids, they come apart in pieces. They're probably a different brand.
Yeah, come by the dealer's den tomorrow and we'll show you the difference between the 2.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And that goes for anybody.
So at this point, as far as aesthetics and what you're selling at your table and how to present it to people, I think my biggest piece of advice for you is trust yourself as an artist. Clearly, you're good at what you do because you've been doing it for however long. And if you like it, your artist choices that you make inside you, other people will probably also like it too. Making nice looking things is what you do, so you've got this. And then the next portion of the panel is doing business. Our quick guide for making sales and managing your table money-wise and economically.
I like this one.
Yes. This is Hannah's favorite.
So we actually have, I believe, pretty different personalities like behind the booth. So I'm an extrovert. I love this part of my job, talking to people, engaging with folks. I could not stay at home and work from home my whole life, so.
Oh, I totally could with a cat.
So I have to do my cons. But for others that might have a little bit harder time engaging in that way, it's good to have an extrovert on hand. This is Arden, Inkmaven's honorary extrovert and salesman.
Chances are, when you go to Inkmaven's booth, the first person you're going to talk to is me.
He's my emotional support animal.
So yeah, and like even if you have like a friend that can give you a break sometimes, you know, and help you out at the booth, that's super helpful. But a lot of times it's just like, my advice is, it's all you're doing is having a conversation with somebody. Ask them how their con's going, you know, like what are you looking for? Do you have any questions? Let me know if I can help. Very simple, straightforward, just being nice and kind is pretty much all you need to do.
Mm-hmm. I am very introverted. When I don't have Arden around, I can like work myself up to get myself in the mindset to be extroverted for a convention weekend, but then I'm just dead for the next week afterward. So one of my favorite tactics is to engage someone when they come to your table, but then put the ball in their court and disengage. So the way that looks is like if you came up to my table, I would be like, hi, hello, hope you're having a good con. If you have any questions, let me know. So that returns the option to the buyer to engage with you again if they're curious about something or if they want to make a purchase. And I think that also works really well with shy buyers, because once you acknowledge them like that, then they've been given permission to like, okay, well, I guess I think I like this sticker.
It's true. You can engage differently with different people. Like if they're another like extrovert, you just like talk it up, you're like, yo, what's up, what are you doing later today? You got any cool panels going on? Awesome. Oh, you like that sticker? Great. How many did you want? You know?
Yeah, and people will definitely walk up to your booth and be like, wow, I want to have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
you know the
for
experts
sure.
when you see them. So that is totally cool too.
That I will point out that I have found that's been very helpful to give as a piece of advice is that, and I've learned this through not only working at conventions, but I actually work as a performer at a Renaissance festival.
Ooh.
And what you find is that every time you have a conversation with somebody, the moment they walk away, the conversation has now reset. And if you find there's this witty little comment that you can make to get a chuckle out of somebody who walks by, a simple tagline that'll get people to notice the booth, even if it doesn't work with someone, the moment they walk away, you can now use that comment again because the person you are now talking to has never heard that before. So if you go to Inkmaven's booth, I will sometimes make video game references. You know, somebody will walk by and I'll be like, we have the finest goods in Skyrim right here. And sometimes people will be like, what in the world is Skyrim? And other times they'll be like, So sometimes just a little thing like that can be enough to get a conversation going. And so if you just find things that work, again, you can just keep reusing it because it will always be new to that person who walks up to the booth.
Putting the performer hat on for a second, we call those bits. And a bit might feel repetitive to you, but you always want to remember, like Arden was saying, that even if you've said it 30, 50, 100 times that day, that's the first time that that person has heard it from you, so it's always going to be new to them. And if it works really well on one customer, you might want to try it again and see if it works really well on someone else. And then, yeah, we definitely have bits that we use over and over.
I have one. I always say, let me know if you have any questions or if you want to hear a terrible joke, I can help you with either of those. And almost always they're like, yes, I want the terrible joke. And this is so very true. I only know one terrible joke. But everybody laughs because it's always new to them.
Oh boy. So some positive reinforcement about the bit thing. Go ahead though.
I know a really good one. Because I used to do traveling sales before I got into art. Was you don't even have to say anything in particular. You can just use what day of the week it is. Oh, Thursday! Thursday! Oh my God, Friday. Saturday! Oh, Sunday!
My problem with that is during a convention, sometimes
They
I
all
don't know
blend
what
So I do like to do that though. I'm like, first day of the con.
That would be perfect.
That's good.
Sunday. But
Yeah, some
if you
positive
don't-
reinforcement to that point.
if you don't know what day it is, that just makes it funnier.
Right? It's like a Tuesday, you're like, oh, man, Thursdays.
They're like, where are you?
There was a bit that Arden used for a while. We sell t-shirts at my booth, and he would encourage people to touch them
I
and
do
then
it
say, go ahead, touch it, they're devastatingly soft. And then a couple years later, we had someone come to our table, point at him and go, you're the devastatingly soft guy. So people remember that stuff, which is really funny. Yeah. Oh no, it fell asleep again. We're doing lots of chatting.
We are
There we go.
having a good time.
Yeah, I think we covered everything on
Yeah.
that slide. So, chatty customers are great, but sometimes they get a little too chatty. We sometimes like to affectionately call these people booth barnacles. And we love our booth barnacles, but sometimes they might get in the way of you potentially making other sales. So it's important to know how to handle that in a respectful and polite manner. Your customer is excited to see you and they're excited to be at the convention and they've chosen to spend their time at your booth, which can be a really great thing. You should absolutely engage with them. But also be aware of the fact that other people also want to be here and want to look at your merchandise, and you should never be afraid to tell someone who's really chatty to either move off to the side or just make a quick acknowledgement of like, I'm so sorry, give me 1 second, and then make a sale and then return to them. But if someone gets too particularly bad, doesn't get the hint, or starts being rude in the amount of time that they're around.
Let's say they've been there like 20 minutes, half hour. I've had somebody that has stayed for hours.
Yes, yep. You can always feel free to ask the convention staff who are running the dealer's den to help you move that person along, because they're here to assist you as well. I've never had to do that though.
Thankfully, I've always been able to. I have my husband. I call him. I'll do like a code word. I'll be like, help me run interference, and he'll be like, got it. And so he'll just kind of come in on the conversation, and he'll be like, that is so interesting. Why don't we come over here and talk about that? And it's great because he'll keep them engaged, and they're having a great time, and I can keep doing my job. So there's lots of ways you can go about it if you have a companion willing to help you out in that way.
He's trained very well.
We're gonna have some words.
Anyway, another part of the economy side of tables is managing your money. It is highly recommended by the both of us to keep your money attached to you if you can. I know a lot of people use a fanny pack. That's usually the safest option, but every dealer is different, and actually neither one of us do that
Anymore.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I need a cash box these days.
Mm-hmm. But having it in a place where you basically always have eyes on it, in a place that it's not grabbable by customers, and then taking it with you out of the den at the end of the day,
night. Yes.
so it is on your person when the hours are closed, is really, really important. Some people operate cash only, especially when you're first starting out, but I would consider a point of sale or a POS device. I use Square. It can be found in most major stores. I know most of our phones don't have headphone jacks anymore, so the little Bluetooth chiplet is what we use now. But when the little Bluetooth one was available, it was like a $5 fee, and then as soon as you connected it to your account and made your first sale or something like that, they would just refund you. So it's fairly cost effective. You use PayPal, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to switch over to Square as well. It's just got more benefit.
Cash only can be fine, but you might also miss out on sales if someone's already spent their cash elsewhere in the dealer's den or the artist alley.
Both is the way to go.
We talked about this a little earlier. This section is kind of on failure, specifically where it applies to finances. I don't like to set sales goals. They put my focus on the money rather than on my customer, and ultimately I'm here to make sure that other people are having a good time. Oh, what?
How did that happen?
Because the slide's not updated?
It's frozen. It's very frozen.
I like social.
That's not great.
Is that the projector or the?
Oh, something's happening.
Interesting.
Might need to turn off the projector and turn it back on again.
Yeah, do the quintessential IT thing.
So while you're doing that,
I was gonna say it's right here.
Thank you.
so yeah. What Ink is saying is, I have the same philosophy. Obviously, we're all here to make money. That's why we want to do this.
Mhm.
But ironically, the less you focus on your sales goal and the more you focus on your customers, your fans, the people that really want to support your art, the more you give love and attention to them and making sure they're taken care of, the money flows.
Yes.
Because, you know, your attention and
Perfect.
time is appreciated. So I personally don't set sales goals, but I do have like in my mind like a rough idea of what I expect to make. Especially when it's, you know, when you have your expenses versus what you need to make income-wise to make a profit.
Yeah.
But I don't really keep that in mind during the con. That's something I focus on after. Like
Mhm.
sometimes even like a week after, I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta tally up like math.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do this because we love it. We love engaging with people. Yeah, that's what really makes me feel successful,
Mhm.
is when I gain new fans and followers and make
Yep.
existing ones happy.
It's worth acknowledging that some things are entirely out of your control as a dealer. Things like attendance, your placement in the dealer's den, where the den is located in the con area, what the hours are, those things can all affect your sales. But in theory, other people are managing those things, the dealer's leads and that, and they should be setting you up to succeed. And then we already talked about the last point. So in my experience, the times that I have failed in the dealer's den have always directly correlated to me being overambitious. So I ordered too much merchandise and had too high of an overhead cost, or my travel expenses and my expenses to attend were just really, really high, but I didn't quite make the mark where I was anticipating. Try not to buy too much merch before a con, unless you're very confident you can either earn it back at that convention, or it won't put you in a weird financial situation, because then you'll be earning money on it as you start to sell it for future conventions. And find out which conventions work well for you before you commit to merch orders before them, and travel expenses like we were talking about before.
Small batch orders when testing out new designs
Yes.
are going to be your friend.
We were talking about the tiers where you start small and then work yourself bigger.
Yeah.
As you know certain things succeed, you can get more and more ambitious rather than just trying to do it all right away.
And you know, even I still do that. Like new lanyard designs, I'll order maybe 25, 50 at the
Mhm.
most. But now, like, I found the designs that didn't work, the designs that do work, and I ordered like 1,000 of the ones that did
Yeah.
work.
In my opinion, ordering something and ordering too little of them and then selling out, I think is a good thing.
It's
Okay.
better
Because
than
then
having
you
too
know
much.
there's more demand than you were expecting, and you can plan for that in the future.
Okay.
So I'm always happy to sell out of something or to not bring enough of
It's a
something.
good problem.
Yes. Ultimately, don't be discouraged. If you fall short of your own expectations, then you can always take what you've learned from that and apply it to your next experience in the dealer's den. Failure is always a learning opportunity. So if you're able to analyze where you might have gone wrong and fix it for the next time, then you're setting yourself up for success. I had a teacher, a professor in high school, who liked to use the phrase, "a high tide raises all boats." And that is especially true in this fandom. We all support each other. The community in the dealer's den is really, really great.
Yeah.
If you need a piece of tape or you're missing some scissors, usually the dealer next to you is very happy to provide those things. So absolutely make connections, make friends with the other dealers. They're super helpful. If you're like not quite sure where to get enamel pins or where a good place to produce stickers might be, a lot of dealers are usually very happy to rep their companies that they have good experiences with.
Some are not.
That's
and
true.
be respectful if they're not.
Yes.
But some are.
Overwhelmingly, the people I've talked to are always like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love this place. Equally so also will tell you like, don't work with this company, I had a very bad experience. They can also recommend you good cons, so you sort of know what to expect even if you've never been there before. You can meet them for room sharing, which keeps your costs down, and then you're more likely to make more profit. You can split tables like we were talking about earlier. And then you can also support each other on social media. So if you need another artist friend that you want to support and vice versa, you can retweet each other's art, and you constantly give each other likes, and then that just gives you a little bit of boost in visibility.
Yeah, I actually had one of my friends, she's a tattoo artist, she does FWA and does tattoos there. And she completely forgot to market her openings for that con, her bookings. And she's like, oh, she's like, Golden, help, put out an ad for me. And I was like, I got it. So just blasted that for her.
It can be a little scary to think, when there's so many other artists in this community, how can I stand out? I would like to encourage you to remember that it takes all kinds. Your work will always appeal to different people than the other artists in your sphere, even if you're making the exact same thing. There's a lot of overlap between Golden and I, but we still have some very different customers, and never once have I felt like we're stepping on each other's sales, even though most of the time our booths are right next to each other.
It's like we have a different enough style, a different enough clientele, for sure.
So by selling something unique to you as an artist and forming relationships with your customers, you will create your own audience. I routinely have people coming back to me every year at the same convention who are like, I bought a shirt from you last year, what's new this year? And then they'll want to buy stuff again because they had a good experience, or because you used a bit on them and they laughed and they had some sort of a memorable experience at your table that elevated their experience at the convention. If you can have some confidence in what makes you unique as an artist, your customers will see that, and you can build on that to create success.
And it's like, I know for a fact, like, I'm a routine customer of Stabler Cake.
Oh, yes.
Like, they're always coming out with some cooler shit. I just gotta go get it. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to curse. Cooler stuff.
I definitely have artists that I will go back to year after year because I like their stuff, or like they were really nice the last time I was at their table. All in all, you got this. Careful preparation and intent will set you up for success in the artist alley or the dealer's den or wherever you want to end up selling your stuff. Never be afraid to ask your questions and advice. And now, that includes us. So if you have any questions now or even tomorrow, stop us in the dealer's den. Golden and I are always happy to answer them. We are now your peers. So if you need any advice or recommendations that we didn't cover in this panel, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, like we've got, let's see, we've got like
15 minutes?
15 minutes. So yeah, please let us know. Is there anything else on your mind? Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you print the stuff at your own printer, or do you offshore the printing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
We have two different answers for that.
I'll let you go first if you want.
So I invested in a large format, really nice printer. So I can do everything in-house. And for me, it was an investment money-wise, and the ink is still very expensive, but I love being able to print anything I want, anytime I want. And it's all within my ability to quality control.
Yep.
So for me, that's the way I went. And still, even though it was an investment, I still am doing, fine on like making back the money. It's just a lot more money up front versus what ink does.
Yep. My work went into a different area, so I don't produce my own prints. I work with a couple of different printing companies. So where Hannah was saying she has a great amount of control over what she prints because she's doing it all on her own. For me, that time went into ordering samples and working with companies and doing small orders first until I arrived at a couple of different places where I know they produce the work and the quality that I want. And so I outsource because it's worth it to me to have done that work first, because now I don't have to worry about the time involvement that it would take me to print prints and cut them out and prepare them for conventions.
Yes.
And it's worth it to me to pay a little bit more to do that. I had another thought, but my brain just went blank, so if it comes back to me, I will let you know. But that's the short skinny of it, is that we both do different things, and whatever works for you, works for you.
So what do you use to cut your prints up on?
I actually don't cut my prints. So the printer I invested in, it prints right to the edge. It is so amazing. I don't have to cut it all.
I do sometimes print prints at home. The one problem with having someone else print my prints for me, it's so redundant, is that like if I need a reorder or something right before the convention, then I can't do it myself. So sometimes I will print my own prints. I use like the slicey cutting board things that they have at
Yeah.
schools.
Yep, the guillotine.
He had that one. Sounds so metal.
Paper guillotine.
I was gonna say the Cricut is a great cutting machine.
Ooh, yeah.
That takes all kinds of different materials from leather to plastics.
I have a Cricut, but ooh, we do not get along.
No, it's definitely, it's not super UI friendly, but once you, like, my ex was really good at it. She used to make all kinds of stuff, but if you're looking for something that'll just like cut the same oval over and over and over again.
Once you get the hang of it and you get in the flow, then you're good.
That
Yeah.
can also be a really great, like, low monetary investment place to start for stickers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
that for a long
Cricut.
time.
I was gonna say, that was the first.
Did we have a question over here, by the way? Yeah, I felt like I saw you earlier. I didn't want to skip you.
Yeah, so you said you should start with small orders at first. What are like roughly like numbers wise would you say is good to start with for like a first time convention? Like for like charms and stickers, let's say.
Well, I know for prints, I can definitely say for prints, like if you're going to a convention roughly this size, maybe you're starting out in Artist Alley, I'd say if you have 5 designs, 5 different pieces, do no more than 10 prints each.
Okay.
And like, yeah, I would say that's pretty reasonable to start out.
All right.
And that's, yeah, I wouldn't do any more than that.
Slightly different point to that because you mentioned like acrylic charms.
Yeah,
For stuff
acrylic
that
charms
has
and
a minimum
stickers.
order. Generally, whatever it costs to produce, you want to make sure that's 1/3 or less of whatever you're selling it for.
Okay.
The reason I mention that metric is because you want to have the 1/3 that pays for the product. You want to have the 1/3 that pays you back so that you can reorder the product again in the future. And then you have the last third as profit, as payment for the work that you did to produce that thing.
Okay.
So if you can't hit that metric, you might need to order more. And usually that's kind of the sweet spot for me. So like, it might be worth considering ordering something that's a little more expensive in a smaller quantity if you're thinking it might be a risk. But if you're like, this is gonna be my bread and butter, I know this is my first time, it might be worth splurging for like 100 or 200 or however many, even if you don't think you'll sell that at one convention,
Oh, yeah.
just so you can hit that mark.
Okay.
Yeah, if I bought like a batch of 100, it would come with me to several different events for sure.
Okay, that's a good point.
I mean, stickers are also really great. And usually like the minimum order can be like even 25 stickers.
Yeah.
In some places. So
There's a lot of sticker places that are doing like 10 samples.
Yeah, I
Right.
use
Just buy the
Faux
sample.
Grace and they do packs of 10.
yeah, and that's a great way. Like if you have absolutely no idea, you're limited on funds, do something like that, super easy. For sure.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Do you have any specific recommendations for companies for stickers at all?
Yeah.
Because I've tried to order some through Vistaprint. I think I've tried a place called Blue and a place called Sticker Mule.
Mm-hmm.
I personally use Sticker Ninja.
Yes.
Sticker
I'm currently in between sticker places. I'm checking out Sticker Ninja as well, and I'm also gonna pull it up because I forgot the name. I was literally just talking about this before the panel. I have not yet got samples from them, but just to put them on your radar in case you want to check out some samples too. The other place is Standout Stickers. Stickers for me, I have some opinions. My opinion is like, go for the higher quality materials because they're gonna last longer, rather than, like, making them at home is a great place to start. But I don't know if I, to my specifications, would stay there forever, just because I don't think I have access to the type of materials that.
I found them.
Did you?
Yes,
Ooh.
I did.
Nice.
But oh my gosh, it's also another one of those things you have to invest in.
Yes.
Um,
Time and monetarily.
I found
Of
the
course.
vinyl material that I printed on, and then I have like the water UV coat laminate.
Ah, yep.
Yeah. So it's out there. You just have to like find it and invest in the quantity that they sell it at, which is not cheap.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What shirt manufacturer do you use too?
I use a local shirt manufacturer.
Same.
I'm from Wisconsin, so might not work necessarily for you, but I recommend finding someplace that's local that does screen printing. I got my shirt place via word of mouth, so I highly recommend screen printing over direct to garment because they'll last a bit longer, the quality is better. I could gush about it forever, and I won't now because we don't have that much time.
One thing I do want to say about shirts though is I have been very frustrated with what are those companies? Print on demand.
Yes.
Ugh, garbage. Yeah, so that would be the one thing I would be very cautious with.
If there is one thing I would encourage you not to do to start, it would be like use a company like Redbubble or Shopify or whatever. Because the margin of profit that you're going to make off of having someone else produce all of that for you and the lack of control over the quality of your product that your art is going on is just not worth it.
Also, something else to keep in mind is depending on the print company, be very careful reading the terms of service, because part of their terms of service might be that they are authorized to print your artwork for their own profit as well.
The last thing you want is bootleg products of your own work.
Exactly.
Yes. No. Did that kind of answer your question?
I've been researching it for a while. I just cannot find any online.
That's fair. I'm happy to share my provider with you. I don't know what their shipping costs would be like, but maybe as far as like quality and research.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to know.
Sure. I'd definitely say local. That's what I did too. It's easy because you can just go pick it up.
I think they recognize my phone.
Probably. Did you have another question back there?
So, it's a bit more of a technical question about printing. Like, when getting the colors accurate on the poster, I think you have to convert to a different color mode. And then you also do you have to like adjust the colors to
I painted CMYK, so I'm like, adjust to what?
Yeah, that's fair. My program automatically puts me in RGB, and converting over from RGB into CMYK without doing any changes can very drastically change the look of your piece. So you can do what Golden does and just work in CMYK.
Because everything I make, I'm like, I might want to print this, so I always start in CMYK first, and then it's easy to convert to RGB.
Yeah, or you could convert over and then do some tweaking if you have access to like Photoshop or something that was similar.
It's a lot harder though.
Yeah, very true.
So you always do your painting in CMYK color?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're starting out an illustration where you're like, I'm going to make this into a print, and that's your intent, then you can start out with those file types.
But there's been times where I'm like, I'm just gonna do a thing, and then I'm like, oh crap, this would be so good as a t-shirt, or like, it's so good as a sticker, and I'm like, it's an RGB! So now I just always do CMYK, because I just want to have that option.
That's fair. I do the same thing with DPI, so I always want to get at least 300 DPI, sometimes upwards of like 450, just in case. Sure, go ahead.
When you guys are online, what websites/platforms do you guys typically use to advertise your art? I've just started getting back into the furry community after taking a couple of years of a sabbatical, and I keep trying for Affinity, but it keeps turning all of my goddamn images on its side.
What? That's weird.
Like all of my images every time I upload it, and I only have my phone to use right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But all of the images wind up sideways to the point where I'll rotate the original file all the way till it's upside down, and it still comes out shifted 90 degrees to the left.
I have no idea. I mean, I use for Affinity and have
Okay.
The thing I would say, especially given your circumstance specifically, I use FA, Twitter, and Instagram right now.
Okay, I use Instagram.
Definitely invest in some business cards, because if you start going to conventions, you're going to meet people who then want to follow you online.
Yeah.
If you give them a business card and they really want to follow you, they will go where you are.
Okay.
So wherever you want to build your audience, you can kind of do that in tandem with your dealer's table, and just make sure that you have some sort of thing that they can take away with them that has your social media on.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Quality trends right now, I would recommend Instagram and Twitter, but TikTok is also immensely popular.
I know, I keep meaning to do those videos of speed paintings. I've gotten to where I can do a full, like fully detailed 3x3 in about an hour and a half.
That might be a good, speaking in terms of investment, might be a good investment for you to consider one of those like camera stands.
I've
like
got a gooseneck. Would that work?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
That's not something I would need for my business, but that might be a really good investment for you.
Yeah.
Less in the merchandise sales side of thing and more in just like helping you build your online audience.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
No problem. Sure.
You said printing in CMYK?
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for every single print? So like stickers,
It
shirts,
Yeah.
pins.
Most-
It's not
So-
the palette, it's how the ink
It
is
depends on how
layered.
you wear your shirt, but yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Virtually every major printer uses CMYK.
Gotcha. I
The
just
short
wanted to make
skinny
sure
of
it's
it
here.
is like visual light from a computer is going to be a mixing of red, green, and blue, like hex codes for coding. Physical ink with the dot matrix printing, instead of doing red, green, and blue, does cyan, magenta, yellow, and
Black.
K is black.
Yeah.
So all of the colors produced on like the t-shirts that Golden and I produce are all just a combination of those colors in different mixtures. So it's just technical gobbledygook. The computer understands the colors you're creating as a mixture of those colors instead of RGB.
Yeah.
Curiosity with the good site for pins, like emails.
I'm still working on
Yeah.
that.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
site
I
for pins. I don't think Golden does either, but our good friend Blind Coyote
Yeah.
does pins. He might know, and you might just want to walk around the den and ask some people what they, if they're comfortable sharing, if you see that they have some particularly nice looking pins.
Yeah, I try not to bug them too much, so that's one of the things that's.
That's fair. It
I
looks
mean,
like,
one of the things you can do is also offer like a trade. If you really, because you're right. Sometimes if you want to pick somebody's brain, that's that's still using their time. So maybe what you could offer is like, hey, can I do like a lunch run for you, or if you need anything, can I do like a trade just to like pick your brain, get some insight. And oftentimes they'll be like, that's a sweet deal. Okay.
You bring a dealer a snack and
Yeah.
you're on their good side.
the way I would handle it is if I really wanted to ask someone about their enamel pins and I was interested enough to know where their product was, I might just buy an enamel pin from them.
Yeah.
And then that would remind me later on that if I forget, I can contact that person, that I've got that in my pocket and I've given them some money for their time.
Yeah.
I think that puts us at 7:30 exactly. So much appreciated for coming to our panel and letting us talk your ear off for an hour. We hope you learned some things that make you a little more confident in your experience as a dealer or an artist at conventions. And past this panel, if you have any other questions, absolutely feel free to stop by and talk our ears off at our booth tomorrow or on Sunday.
Yeah.
So thank you. Sorry for saying you were well trained.
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
And it has four
but,
long legs on it
yourself,
that
which
make
is what
really
we talked about.
that makes it really good for like holding it overhead or if you need to tell that angle in your basement is bent.